Appearance of another Kenyan from Washington State, Henry Rono, brings the huge crowd to seat edge. Now here's James Mignola, the defending champion. His face shows the strain of a tough challenge. The race is the 3,000-meter steeplechase, and of course, Rono is the odds-on favorite, having set the world record just 3 weeks earlier. Rono has raised the crowd's anticipation to the stratosphere. In the qualifying heats, he shattered the meet record set by Mignola in 1976. Also, Rono has broken Steve Prefontaine's meet record in the 5,000. However, both marks were considerably short of the world records, which Rono, not surprisingly, also holds. But by way of excuse, he did this day's running on a sore foot. That sore foot kept Rono from attempting a distance triple. He had planned to run the 10,000 meter the night before and the 5,000 later this afternoon. He reluctantly decided to skip the 10,000 this time out. Such is Rono's strength and endurance that there is no sign that his ailing foot has slowed him down in this race. And Rono doesn't disappoint the enthusiastic crowd. His winning time is short of his world record, but he does shave an additional 6 seconds off the mark he set in the heats.
Just over 4 laps to go, and he's broken the European champion Vainio with 3 dramatic laps in the middle part of the race. And in fact, Vainio, with Bernie Ford, the British #1 in this event, closing all the time on the European champion, is paying for chasing Henry Rono. And the middle part of the race, they went through 5,000 meters in 13 minutes 51.6 seconds. And then suddenly, Rono threw in 3 66-second laps, and he broke Vainio entirely. They both got away from Ford, and at one stage, Bernie Ford, that's Jeff Smith, by the way, the British #2, who in the match is back in 3rd place. At one stage, Bernie Ford here, who's really got the crowd roaring now, was some 6 seconds behind the new European champion Vainio, but now with 4 laps to go, he's within 5 meters. He's been closing all the time. Rono, by the way, running as a guest artist. Guest artist in every sense, because he's the man who's attracted the crowd. There's about 4,000 to 5,000 people packed in the main stand, and he really is the man they've come to see this afternoon, fulfilling an obligation, a promise he made to run the recent Rotary Watches meeting. But because of the President of Kenya's death, he wasn't able to compete. Bernie Ford taking Vainio down the back straight, but the big Finn may well dig in behind him. Bernie Ford, of course, not noted for his fast finish, and having got there now, has got to make it painful for the Finn all the way. So that's the match race, and the race for 2nd place, 1st place in the match. But meanwhile, Rono has 3 laps to go. The pace, by the way, has slowed quite a bit in the closing stages because there's a 6 to 7 meter headwind in the finishing straight. The last 3 laps have been very even paced by Rono, 68, 68, 68. And the present schedule just inside 27.50. Ford not shaking Vainio. This match, sponsored by British Meat, around now with just 800 meters to go. Meanwhile, Bernie Ford hasn't got away from Vainio. In the match, Jeff Smith is just about 20 meters behind, lapping the finish #2. The finish #2, it was a lap behind. That's him. Phil Homer. That's Jeff Smith and Liverpool Harris in his first international, so he looks like finishing 3rd in the international race. Also, be no more than was expected. His job was to take care of the 2nd Finn. Bernie Ford's job was to take care of Vainio. And I've no doubt Brendan Foster, watching at home, the man who was run out of a medal, really, by Vainio in the closing stages, when he really broke Brendan's heart in the Prague Championships. Brendan obviously not having recovered from the Commonwealth Championships. Watching this race, no doubt, with interest back in Gateshead. And no doubt feeling for Bernie Ford out there, because Bernie just missed selection in both the Commonwealth Games and the European Championships. He would have been the 4th selection behind Foster, McLeod and David Black. But break. Ford on the last lap. Meanwhile, the bell has gone for the leader. Rono.
26 minutes, 53.2 seconds for Henry Rono.
Went through there in 26 minutes, 53 seconds. The last lap is 69, so Rono's feeling the wind. And as he goes away, satisfying the crowd really, though, very entertained by the battle for second place, and which is a battle for the max points. They've got the bell. Meanwhile, Rono is approaching the 200-meter mark. That's all he's got left. And Rono really kicking it in now. And certainly, like all these Kenyans, when he appears at a meeting, he gives full value. There's no hanging about, and he goes on to Italy tomorrow to take on Ortiz, the European 5,000-meter champion in Italy, together with Vainio, who will also be running there. So Rono warmly applauded by this crowd, and meanwhile the race for second place hasn't really started. Nothing's developed yet. They've got about 200 meters to go.
The lead is Kipnikich Rono. In second place is Hilary Chuai, and in third place, the world record holder for this event, Henry Rono. The world record holder at 8 minutes 5 seconds, and leading is Kipnikich Rono, no relation, Adrian, to Henry Rono.
But of course they both come from the same part of the country, both members of the Nandi tribe. That's part of the Kalenjin group of tribes to the north of Nairobi, some 200 miles, and there goes Kip. There goes Rono. He's been loafing along at the back of the field. This is the first move he's made, and he may be feeling the effects both of the travel, because he's been coming across from America, and also the altitude. We're at 5,300 feet here in Nairobi, and of course he's at school in Washington State in America, and he's not running quite as well, it seems to me, this season as last, but he's made his decisive break. He's of course the Commonwealth champion at the steeplechase.
We're not into a very fast time at the moment, but even so, as you say, we're at altitude, and it's interesting to see Chuai, who's already run 8 minutes 24 for this event this year, one of the leading times in the world, trailing back into third place, but he was complaining before the race today of very sore legs from steeplechasing, and he was rather reluctant, I think, to win this race.
What about Henry's hurdling style?
Well, as we go into it now, we can see that, in fact, as he clears the hurdle, it's not too bad a hurdle technique at all, but he just cannot judge the distance of the hurdle. He can't read the hurdle as he comes into it. He really has to sort of falter and check, but actually his clearance, as we come into the water jump here, is not too bad at all. He drops his centre of gravity and drives off the top of the barrier.
So coming down the home straight now, Henry Rono, holder of 4 world records, galloping away over this last hurdle, checks, falters, almost hits it, climbs over, grimaces, picks himself up and comes down to the line ahead of his compatriot, the other Rono. The time 8:34.14, a reasonable time. Look at this, Alan, here at this hurdle.
Yes, here we see that example. Look, he looks, he stops, he can't read the hurdle at all, but actually when he goes across it, he's not too badly spread at all. But here's the remarkable ability of Rono to change pace, to pick up again in this, the 3,000-metre steeplechase.
10,000 metres and in the steeplechase. And alongside him is his training companion and travelling companion, Kip Koskai. Sorry, you may have just lost the picture momentarily back at home, but they're coming round now in the 10,000 with just about 4 1/4 miles to go.
Julian Gota settled in third, Mick McLeod in fourth, Hargleston's in fifth, but how nice to see 2 Kenyans back in the front of a 10,000-metre race, and how nice to know that Henry Rono is back in superb form. The Kenyans, always noted for their front running, have taken up the pace after Mark Nevins of Belgium set off with laps of 65 seconds, 66, 66, and then 67, and that wasn't good enough for Rono. Rono, who looked hungry for athletics again, back in the picture. Mick McLeod just going through ahead of Harglestein's there, and Mick McLeod has said, watch out for the American Alberto Salazar, who was up with the leaders and has just dropped back to about 6th place with about 4 men left in. But the Kenyans leading the charge as they come up with 14 laps to go.
Salazar, who was with the leaders early on for about 4 laps, has dropped right away. Just running back through the field, the 2 Kenyans leading. Julian Gota in 3rd place. 4th of them over the Harglesteins of Belgium. 5th is Mick McLeod from Great Britain, and 6th is Riffel of Switzerland. Riffel, the European silver medalist at 5,000 metres. The laps have been very, very even pace. They opened with a 66, went to 265 when the leader was Mark Nevins, the Belgian international 1,500-metre runner. Then they went 67, a series of 68s, and they're back to 67.
Nice to see The British well up in this field. Julian Gota, who's an RAF officer stationed at Harrogate and says he owes them much for giving him the time to train, has been improving all season. When he ran second in Zagreb, it was a real test of character for him. He came through it so well, and he's enjoying his racing. Mick McLeod's dropped back there to sixth place. He was saying of Salazar, who's just ahead of him now, that in a recent road race, Salazar looked tremendously good. Ran the first mile of a 7.5-mile road race in 4 minutes 16, and Mick couldn't stay with him. But all the news is about the Kenyans and about Henry Rono coming back to that superb 5,000. They're coming up to 5,000 now, in which he led much of the way. There's the time, 13:52.98 for Henry Rono, the man from the Rift Valley in Kenya, and this
Coming around with 12 to go, and the halfway pace suggests something reasonably fast. They're well inside, well, they're on schedule for something in the region of inside 27.50. Rono leads, Gota second, and Koskai drops out. Koskai's dropped out of the race. Hagelstein's of Belgium is third, Riffle of Switzerland four, and Salazar with that rather painful-looking action, the American in fifth place. Sixth is Mick McLeod, and in seventh place, Eddie DePau, or rather Carol Lismond now of Belgium. Carol Lismond, if you spot him, in the all-red kit wearing number 118. He's 32 years old, just out of the picture now. Won the 1971 European Marathon Championship in Helsinki. He's just at the back of that pile in the all-red kit. Number 118. So in that leading group, we've got a Kenyan, we've got two Britons, we've got a Belgian, we've got a Swiss, and we've got two Belgians and one Swiss. And Lismond going through a difficult time. The American there, Salazar as well, and McLeod's having problems, just about staying in touch with the pace. Julian Gota looking very frisky alongside Rono. Julian Gota, of course, our national cross-country champion, a member of the Shaftesbury Club, who serves in the RAF. 11 laps to go. Rono and Gota clear.